For generations, black women have been told that the kitchen is their place, a site of duty, not desire. But what happens when food carries the weight of betrayal, longing, and generational pain? In Deesha Philyaw's short story collection titled The Secret Lives of Church Ladies, one particular short story titled Peach Cobbler involves the scent of baked peaches that carry more than just sweetness. It carries silence, shame, desire, and survival. My name is Emily Alvarado, and in this video essay, I'll explore how Philyaw's Peach Cobbler exemplifies womanism. Womanism is defined as a black feminist perspective that centers the lived experiences of black women. Deesha Philyaw's short story collection falls under African American contemporary literature. Contemporary literature as a whole has allowed writers to explore complex identities, challenge social norms, and bring awareness to different experiences in powerful and imaginative ways. Contemporary African American literature specifically is a type of storytelling by African American authors that explores current issues, identities, and experiences within the black community. Peach Cobbler by Deesha Philyaw is about a girl named Olivia who grows up watching her mother bake a peach cobbler every Monday for the married pastor of their church, who then has an affair with their mother. Olivia feels neglected and confused by her mother's behavior and the secrecy surrounding the affair. As she grows older, Olivia struggles with her own identity, relationships, and her desire for love and validation. Deesha Philyaw's short story, Peach Cobbler, exemplifies womanism by depicting the protagonist's maturing process, struggles with gendered expectations, sexual exploitation, and the symbolic use of food to represent nurturing and oppression. Before diving into the story, I'd like to first define womanism. First originated by Alice Walker, womanism is a social theory rooted in the everyday realities of black women, as further explained by April Prince, the author of the article Womanism versus Feminism, What's the Difference? Womanism as a movement seeks to be a much more intersectional and inclusive movement, one that acknowledges and works to dismantle the hardships of women whose issues differ from their cis-white counterparts. In other words, this term was adapted to expand traditional feminism by including cultural, emotional, and spiritual aspects of black womanhood. Womanism acknowledges not just oppression, but also joy, creativity, and survival. It values community, generational bonds, and the complexity of black women's identities. In this way, Peach Cobbler is not just a coming-of-age story, but it's a womanist text. Now, going into maturing and identity formation, Peach Cobbler follows the perspective of its main character, Olivia, who grew up watching her mother bake peach cobbler each week for a married pastor who visits their home for sex. Olivia, who is caught between childhood and adolescence, internalizes shame, secrecy, and desire without explanation. As we move into the protagonist's emotional growth, we see a pivotal moment when she shifts from vulnerability to strength. In a scene in which she is about to engage in sexual intercourse with the boy she is tutoring, Olivia reflects on her body, saying, "For once, I didn't feel embarrassed or annoyed. I felt powerful." This shift signifies her developing sense of self and empowerment, a key element of womanism. She begins to reclaim her emotional and physical autonomy, marking her transition into maturity. In another instance, towards the end of the story, the protagonist confronts her mother, declaring, "So you don't have to worry anymore, Mama, about me wanting to be anything like you." At this moment, Olivia rejects the idea of replicating her mother's painful existence. She vows that her life won't be anything like hers, which is a symbolic break from the cycle of trauma and submission. It's an act, a womanist act, of claiming one's own path, even in the face of generational pressure. Now, moving on to sexual exploitation and silence, Philyaw's Peach Cobbler also confronts sexual exploitation, not just of the mother, but also indirectly of Olivia. Her mother is involved in a long-term affair with a married preacher, and Olivia is forced to normalize the lie, clean up the evidence, and live in a home shaped by unspoken trauma. This theme of keeping silent can be seen when Olivia is told by her mother that she is expected to tutor the son of the man she's having an affair with. At this moment, Olivia reflects to herself how vague her mother seems to be when talking about it, knowing that Olivia knew what she meant despite being this vague. In this instance, Olivia thinks to herself, "Of course, there were many things we were not going to say. I was going to keep my mouth shut, as expected, as it is always expected." Womanism doesn't ignore exploitation. Instead, it exposes how silence can become a form of control. Olivia isn't just silenced by her mother, she's silenced by respectability politics, by religion, and by fear. In highlighting this, Philyaw makes us see how sexual power and secrecy are handed down through generations, along with how breaking silence can be a form of survival. Next, with talking about the symbolism of food in this short story, one of the most powerful womanist tools in the story is the symbolism of food. The peach cobbler is more than just a dessert, but it's symbolic of desire, manipulation, and control. Olivia associates the cobbler with betrayal and shame, even though it's supposed to represent love or hospitality. Her attempt to recreate the dish for the boy she tutors ends in rejection, mirroring her mother's pain. Despite preaching how she would never end up like her mother, Olivia almost mirrors the same fate through this recreation of wanting to cook a peach cobbler for a man who is cheating on his significant other. Womanist literature often uses food as metaphor, linking the domestic space with emotional labor, generational knowledge, and trauma. In Peach Cobbler, food becomes language, a way to communicate what's never said out loud, passed between women in silence and repetition. Cynthia Reyes C., in her article, Food and Eating as Part of the Gender Performative Acts in The Edible Woman by Margaret Atwood, she explains that feminist food studies examine and conceptualize the relationship between women and food, eating, cooking, recipe writing, and how appetite and food choice or food refusal redefine women's voices. This framing helps us see how Olivia's mother's peach cobbler is not just a dessert, but it's a complex, unspoken articulation of survival, shame, and desire. Now, moving on to why this story exemplifies womanism, Deesha Philyaw's story is womanist because it doesn't just show a black girl's pain, instead, it honors it. It gives space to the messy, unspoken parts of life through desire, bitterness, inheritance, and memory. Olivia's survival, her understanding of her mother's choices, and her attempt to make sense of everything through food, they all reflect the womanist project of reclaiming story and voice. Now, this story challenges respectability, it questions religious hypocrisy, and it centers black female emotion. That's why, to me, Peach Cobbler best exemplifies womanism among the four artists we have studied. The author makes it such a raw and emotional story that sticks with the readers through how personal it feels. Now, in conclusion, Peach Cobbler is more than just a short story. It's a quiet revolution. Through Olivia's eyes, Philyaw shows how black girls inherit silence but long to speak. That tension, that yearning, it's womanist. It's survival, it's memory, and it's love, even when love hurts. In choosing to tell the story the way she does, Deesha Philyaw reminds us that the kitchen, once a place of control, can also become a place of reckoning. A story like this feeds the soul, not just the stomach. And that's what makes it so unforgettable. Thank you for sticking with me throughout this video essay, and I hope you enjoyed my presentation on how Deesha Philyaw's short story, Peach Cobbler, exemplifies what womanism is.